Welcome to 2CTV, your global news channel. We come to you guys with some breaking news coming from Yemen. The US Air Force have successfully eliminated Houthi leaders and senior commanders. The remaining members of the Houthis have now fled their bases and are now in hiding. And the Islamic Republic of Iran are preparing to launch a major attack on the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, it's all kicking off in Yemen and in the Middle East as President Trump yet again has won. They are getting sick and tired of winning. And the Houthi narcissists at this point, because they've actually been thinking they are a big deal. They are want to play in the major leagues. Unfortunately, they are dealing with the US Air Force. Since last night, which obviously we reported the first update late last night, which was about the launch of the attacks, which is not a one-off airstrike. We've seen this sort of things before, but this is a whole different type of operation. The US Air Force were told to go in, wipe it out, because we warned them not to attack the Americans. And of course, they continue to do it. And they said, we're going to continue until they stop. But not just stop. This is not just a carrot and stick operation. The president of the US said, we will finish the operation when we know that they are no longer capable of attacking the US. Now, the Islamic Republic are preparing to launch an attack on the Americans. They want to F around. And of course, President Trump has said they will find out. Marco Rubio and the State Department are also preparing for retaliations from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. But we're going to give you guys the update in terms of what's going on. And of course, we're going to get your reaction in the live chat as usual. We also have a big announcement later on. So keep watching. This is actually a very important update. So the Houthi leaders and senior commanders have been eliminated. We are now waiting for the list of the names that will be published shortly. The others are now in hiding. The interesting thing about this is that the Sky News Arabia have now reported that the Houthis ordered the remaining commanders to evacuate homes and avoid government sites because they are absolutely terrified of the US Air Force. They also replaced some of the security teams over the concerns of breach. They don't even trust their own people. This is absolutely fascinating. They've realized what happened in Lebanon with Hezbollah. They are terrified of infiltration. So their own security teams, whose job was to look after these beardy weirdies in Yemen, they said, can we do a bit of a vetting process now? Suddenly they realized, what if we can't trust our own security? So they've replaced them with a new group of people, but they haven't had time to vet their process, vet their background. So this could be an interesting situation. If CIA have been good at infiltrating this, then this could have actually worked out quite well, because the new security members, we don't know who they are, but they probably don't know who they are, because if you didn't trust the original team, who are the new ones? Where did you find them? Are they just like the intern? Who are the interns on work experience? Now, let's go and talk about what's going on with Iran as well, because the US government, as well as the National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, came to say that the strikes in Yemen took out many Houthi leaders, which we know. But Mike Waltz also said that this whole thing is not really just about punishment. This is about prevention of future attacks on the United States. Now, the Iranians, they're not too happy. Look at this guy. Mr. Potato Head says, of course, if you don't know him, he's the Islamic Revolutionary Guard commander. Oh, yes, Hussein Salami is basically like a salami, but salami. Don't get hungry. It's Ramadan. Come on, guys. Hussein Salami has warned of a decisive and devastating attack on the Americans in response to any threat coming towards them. Speaking on Ormia, he claimed that the Houthis make their own strategic and operational decisions, and they will take full responsibility for their actions, but the Iranian regime, of course, will be supporting them. So, on the one hand, the Houthis seem to have autonomy. They've decentralized the system. The Iranian regime are very good at decentralization, ladies and gentlemen, but they will still be there to help their beardy weirdy friends. The problem with Mr. Salami is that he is also at risk. He is terrified of leaving the country. He's the new head, basically, the senior commander of the IRGC. And because of what happened with the previous leaders, one by one, they basically decided to bite the dust. And obviously he knows that he has to stay in hiding inside Iran. Now, meanwhile, the Houthis decided to attack. The Houthis decided to target Israel. Guess what happened? In case you haven't heard, they launched a rocket towards Israel, but it hit Egypt. I don't understand why are these people pretending to be big dogs. They literally hit Egypt. So, the Houthi missile accidentally hit the Egyptian territory, landing near a tourist hotspot of Sharm el-Sheikh, which is on the Sinai Peninsula. And they haven't actually sent out an official apology to the Egyptians. The Egyptian government are rightly so angry, saying, "What are you doing? Just aim better. Israel is over there, not here." And so that's happening. Israelis shouldn't really be that worried about the Houthis' aim. They're not very good at this. Having said that, the Islamic Republic will have to send out some support because these guys can't do anything on their own. The rest of them are in hiding. They don't know how to launch rockets. They don't know how to trim their beards. And this is why they are losing. And this is why President Trump is getting sick and tired of winning. Too much winning, ladies and gentlemen. It's only been a few months. Now, going back to the US government, while we wait for the Iranian regime to launch their so-called attack, which, by the way, we're still waiting for the Iranian regime to launch their attack on Israel, which they promised about 5 million years ago. They call it Operation, what was it? Promise. Operation Promise, Mission Promise, whatever. It's literally the name of the operation is we promise we're going to attack the Jews. Still waiting for that. So they're going to have another promise to attack the US. Meanwhile, the Secretary of State of Defense, Hexeth, came out to also express his views and send out a massive warning to the absolute nutters in the Middle East.
This campaign is about freedom of navigation and restoring deterrence. The minute the Houthis say, we'll stop shooting at your ships, we'll stop shooting at your drones, this campaign will end. But until then, it will be unrelenting. We got the reports last night, Maria. The Houthi capital felt like an earthquake. Dozens and dozens of precision heavy munitions dropping precisely on the targets that we wanted to hit, sending a very clear message. And the message is clear to Iran as well. And the president said it in his truth. Your support of the Houthis needs to end immediately. We will hold you accountable as the sponsor of this proxy.
That's why the Iranian regime once again have betrayed their own allies. It's happened even after the 7th of October attack. Following the counterattack by the Israelis, the Iranian regime essentially, but their rhetoric was the same, right? The rhetoric was, we support our allies, the proxies, we're going to destroy the Jews and the Westerners and Christians and everybody. But in reality, they were terrified, so they actually kind of abandoned Hamas. The founder of Hezbollah at the time kicked off, saying the Iranian supreme leader, well, the IRGC supreme leader, has betrayed us. Then they betrayed Hezbollah. Then they betrayed Bashar al-Assad. Syria fell apart. And now they're doing the exact same thing in Yemen because they simply want power. These idiots are greedy in Iran. That's the main goal. They're not going to get themselves killed. They're terrified. But now they want to poke the bear. President Trump. They have now promised an attack on America. Again, good luck with that. So Marco Rubio is furious, saying that we have evidence that the Houthis will not be able and have never been able to attack any ships without the support from the Iranian regime. And Marco Rubio is absolutely correct. Again, going back to what we reported about 2 minutes ago, which was the rocket launch from Yemen that was supposed to get to Israel but somehow hit Egypt. That happens all the time. These idiots can't do anything on their own. They've been trained for years and years by the Islamic Republic and all the other proxies. That's the only way they could actually operate. Now, meanwhile, the National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, came out to also obviously send out a massive warning in terms of the Iranian regime, saying all options are now on the table. Until now, President Sleepy Joe at the time, his method with the Iranian regime was to treat them as a partner and give them more money, even though the Iranian regime would use that money to attack the West. But Mike Waltz now says, actually, the policy has changed. With President Trump, we're going to go with the whole peace through strength, which means if you have a bunch of idiots threatening you, you first tell them to stop, then you slap them on the wrist, and then you go and destroy them because they're going to come for you anyway. So all options are on our table, including targeting the IRGC. Let's go to Mike Waltz.
Does that mean direct military action on Iran is possible?
Well, all options are always on the table with the president, but Iran needs to hear him loud and clear. It is completely unacceptable, and it will be stopped. The level of support that they've been providing the Houthis, just like they have Hezbollah, just like they have the militias in Iraq, Hamas, and others.
The message is quite clear. This is the final chance for the Iranian regime to stay away. But they have decided to choose incorrectly and go with martyrdom. Essentially, the Iranian regime said, no, we're going to have to attack you. Now, we know that they cannot beat America. Even Europe can't beat America. So how is it possible for these people to actually launch any attack to actually defeat the Americans? They know they can't do it. So they're not going to attack the Americans. What they're going to do is they're going to essentially empower the Houthis to go and, hijack a couple of things again and maybe take a couple of Americans hostage to use as leverage. And then when they get into trouble, the Iranian regime will once again say, actually, that wasn't us. That was the Houthis. Because they are cowards. Only cowards use proxies. Now, in terms of the Houthis themselves, they think they can fight back. I mean, with those little knives. I'm not really sure if they're even sharp right now. They said that the naval attacks against the Americans and the Israelis and the Europeans will continue until the Jews surrender. What's that got to do with anything right now? Let's not forget, the Houthis in Yemen have been doing this for a very long time before October the 7th, before Israel started their counterterrorism operation in Gaza. Has nothing to do with the Jews, but obviously it helps them. So let's just mention the Jews. Let's say the reason we're doing this is because of Israel. If you get Israel to surrender, we're going to stop. Are you? You're a bunch of pirates. You've been doing this for a long time. The issue is not even about Israel. You don't even care about Israel. You just want your own power. And you think, as a tiny member of the proxy network of the Islamic Republic, do you really think the Iranian regime takes you seriously? They don't take them seriously. You saw the knives. It's embarrassing. Now, this is the situation because the network for the Houthis as pirates, this is what they've been doing. So you look at underneath, obviously, you've got the Gulf of Aden, and that's the main area with the Red Sea where the Houthis have been attacking. On the top right, obviously, you've got the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz, which belongs to Iran. You got all the oil section over there, and the Suez Canal is there. So they've been blocking down there by the Red Sea, everything going up and down, and also outside by the Gulf. So nothing to do with Israel and what they're doing in Gaza. It's just a bunch of propaganda nonsense. Now, speaking of propaganda, ladies and gentlemen, last night we showed you the latest footage of the Air Force of the Houthis in Yemen. But they have discovered AI. Ladies and gentlemen, the Houthis have discovered computers and the internet. They've made a new AI-generated threatening video against the Americans. It's absolutely brilliant, by the way. So we're going to show you this clip. It's so good. Essentially, this is the Americans dying in the sea because the Houthis are going to be victorious. Let me show you this video, then we're going to come back. ChatGPT generated propaganda video showing the Americans dying. I mean, okay, if I were the president of the US, I'll be terrified because they've discovered the AI, and they might actually discover Google next And oh, God knows what's going to happen when they discover Google, because I think they're going to have to ask Google about the history of Islam. Or imagine if they find out about the history of the 7th century ideology. They're all going to convert to Christianity. All right, so this is a serious update, ladies and gentlemen. We have to talk about Marco Rubio again, because his latest interview, obviously he did the whole round media interview today again with Fox News and all the others as well. And one of the main issues that he was talking about is about going forward and what's going to happen now. And let's not forget, he had to remind the global population of the number of attacks by the Houthis against not just the Americans, but also all the others. But in this case, it's talking about the US.
And in the last year and a half, the last 18 months, the Houthis have struck or attacked 174 naval vessels of the United States, attacking the U.S. Navy directly 174 times, and 145 times they've attacked commercial shipping. So we basically have a band of pirates, with guided precision anti-ship weaponry, and exacting a toll system in one of the most important shipping lanes in the world. That's just not sustainable. We are not going to have these people controlling which ships can go through and which ones cannot. And so your question is, how long will this go on? It will go on until they no longer have the capability to do that.
It's kind of straightforward. And then that's the thing, with the new administration in the White House, you kind of get more straight talking rather than just nonsense. I mean, Biden himself didn't know what he was saying, he was just mumbling, but the whole of the administration, because Joe Biden wasn't really in charge, but the whole of the administration didn't actually know what was going on. So the Houthis are going around saying that the US's Truman has been hit. We don't actually have any evidence. They've also said they brought down a couple of drones. I don't think the Americans are using drones right now. I mean, as far as we know, they haven't made any announcements. No evidence of drones today that we don't know about previously. But the Houthis are just coming up with their own reality, which is absolutely fascinating. But we will wait, because it's a live, ongoing development. Over the next few minutes and hours, we're going to hear more beautiful updates. Actually, in about 2 hours' time, the Houthis, the remaining members of the Houthis, will be making a live statement. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. Is it a resignation statement, or is it about another suicide mission by attacking the Americans? Meanwhile, we're going to actually get your reaction in the live chat. Before we do that big announcement, obviously, for those who do know, we have our independent platform 2C TV Plus, which you can join by going on 2c.tv. The link is also in the description. We are releasing our latest documentary called Cancelled, because obviously the problem we have with the cancel culture across the Western world is that you're not actually allowed to make documentaries on the mainstream media about cancel culture, because ironically you get cancelled. So we have to use independent platforms like 2CTV Plus with your support, and we have now created the new documentary. We're going to show you a few seconds of the teaser, what's coming soon, so you know what you're getting. Let's go.
Free speech is one of the main cornerstones of Western civilization.
When I was at school, when I thought of cancel culture, my first thought went to YouTubers who had to make apology videos for saying something stupid. It wasn't anything to do with politics.
But today, it is under threat.
There is no true free speech in this country. It's utterly terrifying.
Under the guise of safety and social justice, governments across the West are clamping down on what we can say.
You're giving the state far too much power that it will inevitably abuse.
Will freedom of thought and speech become a thing of the past in the UK?
Ofcom will be an organ of the state to decide what's true and what's false.
Oh yes, Cancelled is coming soon on exclusively on 2C TV Plus. You can watch it by going on down there, 2c.tv. All right, let's get some reaction from you ladies and gentlemen. What is going on? So let's get some super chats first. Ivan, thank you very much, saying Iran in perpetual preparation. They've always been prepared. Since 1979, they've been prepared to wipe out the Jews. Let's not forget, Israel is this big. I mean... It's not even that large as a country. They are surrounded by a bunch of nutters, and those nutters are still not able to wipe them out because the Israelis know how to defend. Compiled Tech says, do you think the mainstream media will keep overlooking the Christian masters, I think you mean massacres, in Syria, just like they did the Yazidis in Iraq. Same leader did both. Yeah, they don't care. They just don't care. I mean, it's fascinating how when this was happening by the media 10, 15 years ago, especially back then when the Yazidis were being completely massacred by ISIS, the media were able to control the narrative because everybody still relatively watched TV or read the newspapers. You know, it was still the early days of new media. And in the US, you guys started early with your new media outlets, including InfoWars and many others as well. But they were still able to control the narrative. Now they can't. So their narrative is now being shifted and created actually by social media platforms like X and new media platforms. So when we start reporting things and people react to it online, the mainstream media will be forced to report it. So that's the idea. Ivan says, promises. That's the Iranian regime. Yes. They're not very good, are they? My best friend is Yazidi who lost his family. You should have him on. Yes, well, feel free to let them know. Get in touch with us on Tutsi.tv. We can arrange something. And Katie says, on a separate matter, apparently Starmer got a slap down from the Supreme Court on the 7th of March. Can you look into it, please? Yeah, I believe this is simply about the sentencing guidelines, which the government was forced to try to change it, but they're not able to change it. So there's a couple of other things they're also fighting the Supreme Court about. They just keep losing. This is the monster that they created, Tony Blair and Labour, the Supreme Court. We didn't have a Supreme Court before. We didn't need one because we're not America. It's a whole different system. Kathleen says, love the Mr. Potato Head made me giggle. You are a cheeky devil, TC. He looks like a potato. The leader of the IRGC, the senior commander of IRGC, just looks like a potato. I can't help it. Mark says, you are the best media. Thank you, Mark. You are also one of the best viewers. Guess. Ivan says, those knives look older than me. They were funny, weren't they? Where is it? Can I find them again? They're kind of, if you actually pay attention to, look at it. Look at this mess. This is what they're going to use against the Americans. I'm not even joking. At least Hezbollah were semi-professional. They had better, at least they had official outfits and uniforms. That still didn't help them. You know, Pagergate. Right. Ghost Hybrid says, as an American Air Force veteran, I have one message for the government of Iran. Try it and find out. We have been itching for an excuse since what you did with our embassy staff in 1970s. Yeah, it was 79 when the embassy mayhem happened. Which, I mean, I love how people completely forgot that, because they keep saying if America wants to do something, which again we as normal people would see as self-defense against the IRGC. They always say, oh, the Americans want to start, like, you know, something else. It's Trump wanting to take over Iran. I'm like, do you completely forget that the IRGC from the beginning in 1979 started with one mission, to be against America and the West. Even though it was the same CIA that created the IRGC, well, they didn't create it, they helped them do a coup, paramilitary coup, and take over Iran. The whole thing backfired on CIA and the French and MI6. And now they say, oh, what do we do now? Well, you did this. It's like the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. You created these idiots. Anyway, and Cynthia says, I don't think Iran got the memo. You are no longer dealing with Sleepy Joe. You're dealing with a step out of line and I will kick your Trump. Yeah, it's a longer nickname, but more robust. From Israel says, you are the voice of truth and sanity. Thank you so much. Don't forget, in about a month or so, we will be coming back to Israel for another mission. Or as the lefties would say, I'm coming to Israel to collect my check from Mossad. I wish. Aaron says, oh, live statement interrupted by an EMP. I'm actually quite excited for this. So in about 2 hours' time, we're going to have a live statement by the Houthis. I mean, it would be great if the U.S. Air Force do what the Israelis did in Beirut. Do you remember a couple of weeks ago when Hassan Nasrallah had his funeral in Lebanon? The Israelis started to just like fly their jets, and everybody was terrified on the ground, all the Hezbollah minions. I would love the US Air Force to do the exact same thing in Yemen during this live statement, because apparently it's going to be outdoors. It's nice weather, it's warm out there, why not? Nancy from Canada says, meanwhile, Canadian government is sending 84 million to Syria again. So it's no surprise that Mark Carney's status quo after Justin Trudeau is not actually even status quo. It's doubling down on Trudeau's status quo. So everything you saw from Trudeau is just going to get worse. I mean, not to a point where you're going to miss Trudeau, but Mark Carney is more conniving. Trudeau was more selfish, and he just loved the attention. He was a very emotional, flower. But Mark Carney is a calculative, control-freak globalist. So good luck, Canada, for the next few months. It's fine. You'll take back control when the election comes. Well, let's get some non-super chats as well. Washington Redskins says, oh, you're not allowed to say Redskins anymore, apparently. That's hitting the corner flag from the penalty spot. That refers to the Houthis earlier today when they tried to attack Israel, but they accidentally hit Egypt. That was fun. Blue Sapphire says, as much as I don't trust Egypt, was anyone hurt in the so-called misfire? We don't know. Don't think so, because I think they would have given us the details, but we're waiting. Let's not forget all the news updates. If you rely on the governments in that region, Middle East, North Africa, you have to wait 3 to 5 working days because they're not really that quick. Barry says, this is hilarious. It shows how backwards and full of crap they are. They're trying to beat their chests with no brains. It's true. I wonder if Mr. Fafo will do a video of this. Now, Mr. Fafo apparently died again, although he came back to life. That's the guy in Gaza who's died many times. He's the influencer, but he's also had many other jobs. I don't know. He's died 4 times, I think. Jason says that they want to play the victim and civilian card. That's their plan. So the one thing that will help the Houthis in Yemen, sort of like the Taliban in Afghanistan about 30 years ago, 25 years ago, is they don't really have official uniforms. So they're mostly in just plain clothing, which is sort of like caveman days. And so they can easily hide among civilians. And also, they have another top trump card. Let's not forget. They can wear a burqa. all the senior figures of the Houthis could suddenly self-identify as a woman and wear a burqa. And no one's going to know who they are. This is the problem. It's not a fair fight when you can self-identify as a woman and suddenly hide behind a burqa. Man up. Gary says, I have 2CTV Plus. Good. Well worth the money. See, this is good customer feedback from Gary. Listen to Gary, guys, and sign up to 2CTV Plus by going on 2c.tv. The link is in the description. Smooth, right? Sharon says, I'm more interested in what's happening in the UK and the mess that needs to be dealt with. Another diversion happening when we should be focused on the UK. Sharon, this is not BBC News. This is a global news channel, 2CTV, and there are people's lives, innocent people's lives at risk from all around the world, including the Americans and, of course, the Israelis and the Europeans who are near the Red Sea. And I can assure you, major conflicts, as opposed to what's happening with the NHS plan of Keir Starmer, the major conflicts are not the diversions. It's not a distraction. These are important issues that are happening, which will have a ripple effect in our European countries and North American countries, Australia, New Zealand. It's important for people to be up to date with everything that's going on, rather than just find out what Starmer is doing with hospitals, for example, or tax rates. Right, but of course, there's always BBC News to check out all that stuff as well, if you wish. Michael, thank you for your super chat saying, just subscribed. I hope you hit 1 million soon. Oh yes, it's coming home, ladies and gentlemen. The road to 1 million. Ivan says, Sharon, this is a global media channel. Thank you, Ivan, for the support. It's okay. And I think we can multitask, Sharon. Like, I'm talking about this, but later on we'll be talking about what's happening in the UK and in Germany and everywhere else as well. Tusi, are there still Zoroastrians in Iran, or is it mostly Muslims? No. If it's mostly Muslims, then even if you remove the mullahs, not much would change. So less than 30% of the population are Islamic in Iran, and most of them, that 30%, which is a minority, a big chunk of them are just cultural Muslims, Shia. They're just born into it. It's about 5% of the population who are basically nutters because they're part of the IRGC. They're just part of the Islamic occupiers. Iran is not an Islamic country, it's not an Arab country, it's under the Islamic occupation. Zoroastrians are a tiny minority now, but there is a massive increase in terms of the Christian side. Christianity is on the rise in Iran, obviously. Was it 5,000 mosques? No, 50,000 mosques had to be closed down because nobody goes and it's expensive to maintain them. In Iran, they had to close it down. Obviously, Christianity is on the rise, and again, most people in Iran just don't identify as religious in general, but they are definitely not Arab or Islamic. Now, Chris says the jets that flew over Nasrallah's funeral were the same jets that dropped the ordnance on this bunker. I would love to see if it was the same, because we had those female pilots. They got the female pilots in Israel to do this because in Islam, if you get killed by a woman, you'll be in trouble in the afterlife. You're not allowed to get killed by a woman, which is a genius move by the IDF to send the female soldiers ahead. Anyway, Robbie says, any news on the rumor that Nigel is sacking Zia? Best news ever if true. No, the news is not that Nigel is sacking Zia. The rumor is that there's a pressure now on Reform UK and Nigel to throw Zia under the bus. So obviously Zia controls 50% of the company. Reform UK is not a party, is a company. 50% is owned by Zia Youssef, 50% owned by Nigel Farage. He can't legally get rid of him because he controls 50%, but he can throw him under the bus using other methods, let's just say. Now, there's another one. Pesky says, look at those Houthis with their knives. Oh, bless their hearts. Goliath brought a sword. That's true. To a slingshot fight. Big mistake. Yeah, US Air Force doesn't use knives. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. If you're new to 2CTV, make sure to subscribe and stay up to date with all the global geopolitical news. I'm Maya 2C, and we are the media.